The Ryzen 3 4100 is currently the cheapest Ryzen processor that you can buy right now. This processor is based off the Zen 2 architecture, comes with 4 cores and 8 threads. Now we know this isn't the fastest processor in the block, but let's see if this is something that's viable if you're into competitive games like Warzone, Fortnite, Apex Legends, Valorant, or PUBG, and if this is actually a solid choice. So for this test, we are pairing the Ryzen 3 4100 with the RTX 3060 12GB card. Now we know that the Ryzen 4100 only comes with PCI-E 3.0, so at least with the 3060 it will utilize 16 lanes to actually compensate for that weakness. Now to keep this real, we are also using 16GB of 3200 MHz RAM, because obviously if you're buying this CPU, you're probably on a budget, and the rest of our specs are pretty standard in here. Now we are recording our benchmarks here with a secondary PC with external capture card, so there is no performance loss in here. All specs are in the description. Let's start off with Call of Duty Modern Warfare synthetic benchmarks. Okay, here we go. Ryzen 4100 on competitive 1080p, and you can see right there that our frame times are really bad. We are not GPU bound in here. It's clearly CPU limited in here. Really poor 1% and 0.1% lows. Let's see how this one performs with DLSS turned on. And once again with DLSS and 1080p native, and it seems like it's much worse with DLSS turned on. Now this could be because we are, with that CPU limitation. It's just bad, like really bad. 1%, 0.1% lows, no difference, because like I said, we are CPU bound in here. Our CPU is really pushing it. 4100 MHz, its maximum speeds, clock speeds. So yeah, let's have a look at actual gameplay in here. Okay, actual gameplay, and look at those frame time chats, boys. It's really bad. Now I've tried this multiple times. That's the same thing. So yeah, and I don't know if this is something to do with Warzone's latest patch as well, which kind of like made everything really bad for for components that are much higher components. And yeah, yep, it's really bad. Look at that one. Average FPS 53.1% and 1% lows are terrible as well. VRAM, we are utilizing 10GB of VRAM in here, and you can see once again we are CPU bound here, CPU bottleneck in here, because our RTX 3060 is not maxed out. So yep, let's move on to our next game, Apex Legends. Oh god, I missed that one. Okay, here we go, Apex Legends, and we are using 1080p competitive settings here, and let's see how this one turns out. We'll start off with some synthetic benchmarks, and we'll compare this with our 5800 X3D. And here we go. Now Apex Legends is a DX11 title, so there's not much difference in here in terms of about 20 FPS and a 0.1% lows for 40. Okay, right, this looks like it's passable. Here we have the actual gameplay in here. We got average FPS, at least it's about over 144, but 1% is around 97, so that's good, that's okay. I suppose I think you could actually play Apex Legends with this processor if you're on a budget at 16GB, right? So yeah, obviously we are still CPU bound in here because our GPU is not maxed out. Oh, hit that guy. Right, so it's okay. It's okay. It's definitely not the best, right? It's not the best experience, but it is viable. Alright, I'll try this with like long range shots in here. I can hit those shots. Boom, that guy's down. Right, I can hit those shots in here. And before we proceed, boys, if you like more of these contents, please subscribe to the channel. We're at 129 subscribers, so yeah, if you could sub to the channel, that would be really great. Let's move on to further testings. Let's go with Fortnite. Okay, here we go with Fortnite. Now we're going to be testing out all 3 APIs on this one here. Let's see if like everything here. We got performance mode, DX11, DX12, and obviously from all 3, performance mode is probably the better option in here. We are still CPU bound in here, so yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen our previous videos, but even at the X11 or the X12, we tend to have higher GPU usage, and that's because we are GPU bound, more like closely GPU bound on those scenarios. But in this case, we are obviously CPU bound with our weaker 4100, and you can see that in here with those multiple frame time spikes. Now, yep, there we go. Now, just disregard the 0.1% lows, but look at those ones, boys. The frame time spikes are very frequent. Managed to hit those shots in there, but this is like not a really smooth experience. I mean, if you'd like to play Fortnite on a budget and you just want to, you know, you're okay with those like terrible frame times, you can see in there, frame times are terrible. Yeah, the frame times are that terrible. Okay, and you know, if you're okay with that one, your budget, you can still play the game. You can still get about like 188 FPS in this case, but those spikes will definitely ruin your game, right? Like, look at that one. Those frame times are terrible in here. This is very noticeable. Yeah, let's move on to the next game, Valorant. So Valorant, we've got 1080p competitive settings in here. We'll try 1440p competitive later on as well. But first off, we'll compare the 4100 to the 5800 X3D, and look at the massive difference here, boys. We got average FPS of 800 compared to 300 plus, and the 1% lows, that's almost like more than 2 times, or like close to 2 times, right? So let's see, heavy action scenes. Yeah, big difference in there, boys. Big difference. Obviously, you can still play, but let's see how this one turns out in actual gameplay. And yep, look at those frame time spikes, boys. Frame times, if they're a bit erratic, that means there's you know, some stutters in there in game, and that's how you can measure stuttering in game. Like, look at those ones. Terrible frame times, right? I can still hit the shots, right? But just be aware that you'll have those stutters, right? So those micro stutters in there, those frame time spikes. So if you can handle that, that's fine. Let's go with 1440p. And here we go, 1440p. It's so like the same experience as 1080p, I think. Yep, you got more or less the same FPS. Now we are not showing 1% and 0.1% lows here, boys, because we are bringing Omen, and Omen's ability tends to like just max up the metrics in here. But you can see in here, we're still CPU bound. Yeah, we're still getting those frame times. Like, obviously it's not shown here, but yeah, you still get those ones. And obviously this is just a section, but obviously on heavy action scenes it will yeah, those ones there. So yeah, it's okay, but not the best. Let's go with the next game, PUBG. Here we go, PUBG, and we're going to setting everything up with 1080p competitive settings at the X11 enhance. Right, now let's start off with compare again with our 5800 X3D. If there's any difference, a little bit of difference there. 180 FPS compared to 214 FPS average. 0.1% and 1% lows. Yeah, obviously there's a big difference there, sizable difference, but let's see how this one turns out in actual gameplay. Here we go, actual gameplay. I'm just showing some running shots here. Obviously I'm in the blue zone, but I just wanted to show how it is when it's actually running in here. Like, yeah, you still got those frame time spikes in there. Yeah, let's see here, some action scenes. Some guy was trying to shoot me in the side here. Let's see. Right, obviously we're still CPU bottleneck in here. There you go, down that guy. Yep, we're still CPU bound in here because our GPU is not maxed out. So yeah, it's pretty viable with PUBG, Valorant. As long as you could, you know, you can anticipate those stutters in there. I mean, that's totally fine. If you're on a budget, you can still game competitively, but you won't have that really smooth experience. So anyway, guys, if you like more of these tips, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested on like the RTX 3060 against the RX 6600 XT and see how that one turns out, click this video right here, and yeah, I'll see you guys over there.